Come on, kids, sing along.
We are the Navy Blues. We are the old dark Navy Blues. We're the team that never lets you down. We're the only team old Carlton knows. With all the champions they like to send up, we'll keep our end up, and they will know that they've been playing against the famous old dark Blues.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think you all know that song. So that is the Carlton Football Club song. So what that must mean one thing, Vince. It's time for In the Blue Corner Sunday night. So I'm Joe Luzza, coming to you all the way from Bangkok, and you are?
Yes, Vince Locissano, coming to you from Melbourne, Australia, and what a big week it's been for the Carlton Football Club and for followers of the club.
Well, Vince, as they say, what a week it's been in football.
Yep.
So this week, I was talking to a chap over here in Bangkok, a fellow Carlton supporter, who is going. He's actually got to go home or go back to Australia this week to fix up his pension. And he said to me, "Oh, don't worry, Joe. I'll be there at the first game." He's got to go home for 6 months. So the football season's nearly upon us. But Vince, there's been a few other interesting, I suppose, events that have happened that are football related. But not on-field football related. And the first one, we gave you some tasks last week. So the first task not in any order, the first task that we gave you was that you were to give us a rundown of the AGM. So Vince, in your eloquent, brief style, tell us a little bit about the AGM. Were there a lot of people? Were there a lot of questions? Give us the news report.
Well, the AGM was held on Thursday night, the 23rd of February, and there was the usual 40 or 50 people that tend to go most years. That was about it, really, when it came to physical attendance at the annual general meeting. I believe there was another 100 people approximately tuning into the live stream. So for a club of 88,776 members or whatever it is, that's not a lot of people, is it? But nevertheless, I guess it just goes to show the apathy that a lot of members have towards how the club is being run and who's running it. But I think generally speaking, most members are only tuned in when it comes to on-field performance.
Sorry, I interrupted you. What time was the AGM?
Okay, well, it was at 6 p.m. At the club.
So it's outside of work hours.
Sure, yeah. It was held in one of the newer rooms as part of the new development. So it's quite nice to be in there. Brand new room. One side's looking at the ground, and the other side's looking at the lovely fields and garden areas south of the ground, looking back towards the city. So, very impressive development. But anyway, so the meeting was held. It went for about an hour and a half. Most of it was taken up by questions, either that came through on the email address that the club provided for those people who couldn't attend the meeting. And the vast majority of questions were dealt with from people who had turned up. Including myself asking a couple, and Paul Sebastiani from the Jumper Punch, who asked a very pertinent question about the AFLW program. There were quite a few other questions, some of them a bit frosty. Some of them put the wind up some of the directors, but nevertheless, we all emerged unscathed by the end of the meeting. So the bottom line is that the club has announced a very distorted profit figure for the last couple of years. they claimed that they had a profit of $20 million plus last year and $17 million plus this year. But the reality is that, we've received $35 million worth of government grants in the last 2 years. So why they would even include that money as part of normal trading revenue, I don't know. But anyway, that's apparently how they do it. So the reality is we've probably made a profit, but far less than those figures would suggest.
Yeah.
By the way, have you told everyone how they can contact us tonight if they want to ask a question or make a comment? Or
there's the chat.
Yeah.
So just feel free to put it in the comment section, and Vince
either
and I are more than
Facebook or YouTube.
Yeah, Facebook or YouTube. Yeah, either way, Vince and I are more than happy to answer any questions. Not a problem. Not a problem. So Vince, were there any questions? What were the questions raised around the women's game? Like, what's her name? Paddy Kinnersley?
Paddy Kinnersley, who was she was there, but there was the questions around AFLW weren't directed at her. They were directed to the president, Luke Sayers, and the CEO, Brian Cook, for the majority of the time. The only other time other questions were answered were by Thomas Crooks, who was addressing any of the finance-based questions. So the question that Paul very eloquently put in relation to the AFLW program was in relation to the statements that they made subsequent to the review, where they said what we really need here is a clear direction and a clear vision for the AFLW program. Well, hang on, what have we been doing for the last 7 years? Have we not taken this program seriously? We seem to be behind the 8 ball compared to a lot of the other teams, and even behind some of the more recent teams that have only just come into the competition. So I think it was probably fair to say that Luke Sayers conceded that they hadn't really focused on the women's program too much. They hadn't really given it the credence it deserved. And, only now or in recent months have they decided that they need to shine a greater spotlight on it. And that's why they announced the review. And as a result of that review, of course, we saw Daniel Harford, the senior coach, depart. The reasons given were because they identified that they need a senior coach that's full-time. Well, they didn't realise that in the last 7 years that they needed a senior coach full-time? They appointed him for another 2 years only 12 months ago. And now with another year to go on his contract, they've sacked him. So it just seems to me that these sorts of mistakes are very, very costly to the club. In fact, he joins a long list of coaches that have been sacked by this club with at least a year to go on their contract. And goodness knows how many millions of dollars that has added up to over the last 20 years, from Wayne Britton to Dennis Pagan to Brett Ratton to Mick Malthouse to, Brendan Bolton and David Teague. Well, it's added up to millions and millions of dollars.
Vince, does that show or in your mind, right? Does that show that we weren't like 100% behind it or not fully committed? Because to me, I hear all the time, we've got to make AFLW a success. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. We want equality. And then here we are, and we talk about it, and then we go and appoint someone on a part-time basis. To me, that doesn't show commitment. Is that the feeling that was given by the crowd? Or
I think, I think it was pretty evident that there was an admission there that, we took our eyes off the ball here, and we've allowed the AFLW program to slide into a period of mediocrity and failure. And the only question that I would have liked to see asked of Paddy Kinnersley, the director in charge of the AFLW program, and it wasn't asked, was why is it that everyone else has got to cop the sack, but you, who are in charge of this entire program at board level, don't suffer any consequences. In fact, the only level of accountability that seems to have been throwing your way is a promotion to vice president of the club. I mean, what message does that send everyone else that a director in charge of a failed program, the price they pay is to get promoted to a vice president's position? I mean, anyway, it wasn't asked to that extent. I don't know if it's because she was there in person or what, but I think that would have been a relevant question.
Any other questions that sort of got up the board of directors back or anything? Did anyone ask anything very prickly?
Oh,
or was
yeah.
It all very...
No, there was a few frosty questions. One, in fact, from my good friend Stephen Katib, who turned up to the
friend
meeting.
of the show.
A little bit later than I expected him to turn up, but he nevertheless turned up and asked a few questions in relation to, the pokey machines and how, the club makes a big deal out of sponsorship contracts that they have either secured or renewed. The most recent example of that would have been the Hyundai deal, where they have extended it for another 5 years. Well, the reality is that, for the money that Hyundai puts into the club, there's another sponsorship that we have that puts probably triple that amount of money into the club, and that's called pokey machines, 290 of them. And yet the club doesn't seem to want to make a big deal out of the fact that they're making something in the order of $3 to $4 million a year in net revenue, after taking out about 19 or $20 million in revenue out of these machines per annum. So the hypocritical part about that, Joe, is that we've got this program called Carlton Respects, which is designed to bring awareness to domestic violence against women. And one of the greatest sources of, or if you like, causes of domestic violence against women is problem gamblers who come back from these pokey machines and start bashing up their wives and girlfriends. So it's something that I wouldn't think should sit too well with the directors of the club, but I don't think they seem to be too bothered by it. The question was put to Brian Cook about, why are we still relying on revenue from these pokey machines? And he said, well, at the moment, we are. We're still reliant on it. And if we want to keep having the resources to put into our men's and women's programs, well, we have to keep relying on that revenue. He basically admitted it.
Yeah, look, personally, I don't have a problem with poker machines as such. I mean, I know it's addictive, and there's. I mean, you and I are both punters, Vince, but I know when to control myself. And Gina works at Tabcorp, Gina, and they'd see all this sort of stuff, but I don't know whether the club needs to wean itself totally off it. I mean, I know a few of the other clubs have. Look,
a number of them have. In fact, a number of them have moved away from gambling revenue and have resorted to other sources of income, and they are trading profitably. But Carlton is quite evidently addicted to this sort of revenue, and I don't believe the club's doing anything substantial to move away from it. And the fact that they just renewed these licenses for another 10 years on these 290 gambling machines just goes to show you that it's all talk and no action. It's all virtue signalling through programs like Carlton Respects just to cleanse their consciences. But in reality, they're quite happy to take money from problem gamblers who many of them go home and commit domestic violence against their partners.
So then that means we need to stop alcohol as well, doesn't it? Because that's just as bad. I mean, I know they've banned cigarette and alcohol advertising, but so that should mean that we stop serving beer at the game. If you're going to take it to the nth degree,
well, it just depends on how far you want to take it, but. I don't think anyone's suggesting that, but it's very apparent that the only purpose of going to, pokey machine venues is to play pokies and gamble. And when you walk in there that there's a very distinct likelihood that you're going to walk out there losing money. So There's other purposes to alcohol in a social sense.
Sorry, I'm going to stop you there. I disagree. Have a look at the World Cup that was just recently in Qatar, and all the people that bitched and moaned, I can't get a beer at the game.
Yep.
So your argument about I'm only going to a pub to get pissed, or I'm only going to a pokey machine venue to play pokies. I'm only going to the football to watch football, right? So if they don't serve me a beer, why should I be bitching and moaning? But people do, because they go hand in hand.
Well, I don't believe. Yeah, but what I'm trying to say, Joe, is that I don't believe any football clubs are deriving revenue streams from alcohol in a direct sense, not in a direct sense like poker machine venues. I mean, yes, they provide hospitality to members that are part of coterie groups and part of, if they go to the president's lunch, of course there's alcohol served. So indirectly, yes, they're serving alcohol and therefore deriving some revenue from corporate sales of tickets to these functions. But it's a very indirect benefit, isn't it, of going to a president's lunch?
I'm just playing the devil's advocate here.
There's a very direct and very blatant revenue stream that goes straight from the problem gambler's pocket into the machine, and out comes the revenue straight to the club. So this is where there's a lot of hypocrisy around these programs like Carlton Respects. For all of the benefits of the Carlton Respects program, a lot of it is seen to be hypocritical in the eyes of many people who believe the club continues to derive millions of dollars worth of revenue from problem gamblers.
Probably. Hey, Vince, I'm just going to cut in. Did your brother know Nadia Morganti? I used to work with Nadia. Hello, Nadia. She says, this is freaky. I went to primary school with Vince's brother. Don't know which one. And worked with
I've
Joe
only got
20
one.
years later.
I've only got one. It's Michael.
I don't know. Who's that, Vince? What's his name?
Michael.
How old's Michael?
Michael's 18 months younger than me, roughly. He's 50. What is he now? 52, turning 53 soon.
So that'd make Nadia about 25 then, would it?
Yeah, that's right, Nadia. Yeah, she's 25, yeah.
That is a bit freaky, Nadia, but anyway.
What else did she say there? What was that under the quote? I was starting to read that and you took it off. Worked with Joe 20 years later. So she worked with you?
Yeah, she worked with me at Maya.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, lovely to hear from you, Nadia. I must mention your name to my brother next time I see him.
Yeah. Okay, so basically the AGM was pretty tame.
Oh, look, it's always attended by a certain group of people who go along there to vent their spleen, complain about the way the board treats them, and some of it's fair enough too. But the reality is that the audience between those who attend and those who are watching online wouldn't be any more than about 150 people. Well, so it's a pretty lame audience, isn't it?
I don't think any other club would be any different, to be honest.
Possibly, unless there's elections. That's the other thing. The two directors who were up for re-election were David Campbell and Tim Lincoln. They were both re-elected unopposed. No one else put up their hand. Yeah. One question I asked was, why does this AGM have to happen in February? Why can't it happen in December? Most clubs that I know of have it in December. The end of the financial year is at the end of October, and by the time the auditors finish preparing that would be the phone.
Sorry.
By the time the auditors prepare the financial statements, it's the end of November. Why can't we have the AGM in the first, second, or third week of December? I mean, we used to do that in previous years. Now, I got a long-winded answer from Thomas Crooks about why it's a bit too cutting it fine to have the AGM before Christmas, and therefore they felt that it was better to have it in the following year after everyone's back from holidays and what have you, after the end of January. I happen to think that the main reason why they don't hold the AGM until February is because if there is a challenge for a board position, or if in fact the entire board is challenged, they know that the appetite for change amongst the Carlton voting members is probably at its lowest at this time of year, because everyone's looking forward with anticipation, with optimism to the season ahead. We're about to have a practice match the day after, all that sort of thing. So, everyone's sort of put 2022 behind them and they're looking forward to 2023. And I think it's a very strategic move on the board's behalf to try and discourage anyone from putting their hand up for a board position, because they don't want you to do that. They don't want members who feel they can contribute to the club to put their hand up for a position like that. They just want our money. That's all we are. We're not members. We are customers. I've said it before and I'll say it again. And nothing's changed in that respect.
Okay. All right. So we've had enough of the AGM. I just had a message from Beachy. He's been to the round ball game where Melbourne Victory drew 1-1. So he's on his way home. So if you're listening, Beachy, hello.
Yes.
Hope you didn't start any fights or throw any flares. Not only is the Carlton most eligible bachelor, but now he's Melbourne Victory most eligible bachelor as well. So, girls.
Well, they look like
ready.
they might have pulled off a big victory there. I think they got a goal in about the 82nd or 83rd minute, and looking like they were going to walk away with the 3 points. But the game's never over till it's over, and their opponents happen to get one back right at the end.
Right at the death.
Right at the death. So,
anyway.
Melbourne Victory yet again. Didn't
Vince,
come home with the chocolates.
Your second assignment, the practice match.
Yes.
Go.
Oh, look, I didn't end up attending the practice match. I didn't end up attending it. I did, in fact, watch some of it.
Oh, well, that's it.
Not all of it. I wasn't able to go for that reason. I couldn't watch it all either. But look, I thought it was a pretty good hit out for the boys. I mean, it was never going to really matter too much whether we won it, lost it, or whether we drew the game. It really wasn't going to matter too much. It was a 10-point margin at the end. I suppose it makes you feel good when you're on the better end of it and you win the game. I guess it gives you a bit more of a warm and fuzzy feeling. But I think it was a good hit out for most of the players. We unearthed some good young raw talent. Probably the period
was quite good.
Yeah, he was. He was certainly looking after one wing very well. Look, I think the only troublesome period for us that sort of bothered me a little bit was in that second quarter when we had a good lead at quarter time, and Collingwood piled on a few goals in a row there, and I'm not sure that I really liked that too much.
The Bolton curse is back, or Teague curse, where they pile on 4 unanswered goals. And
Teague's gift.
Teague's gift.
Look, I know it's a practice match. I'm not going to have nightmares over it. I can assure you of that. But nevertheless, I don't think Michael Voss would have been all that happy with how we conceded multiple goals in succession in that second quarter. But look, in the end, as I said, we unearthed some good talent. I thought Tom De Conning played well, showed some of the aerial skills he's capable of.
Keep that thought.
Harry Mackay, I think Harry played well. Yep, I think Harry Mackay played very well.
About him.
Righto, what's the question?
Well, Lana's asked, when are we going to re-sign him?
Tom De Conning?
Yeah.
Well, when he wants to sign on the dotted line, I guess. I'm sure that Geelong will go after him because they've got his brother.
I'm not
all that bothered. I'm not all that bothered by it. I think they'll probably come to terms with him soon enough. I do think he's got a lot of upside, and would be a shame to see him go. He's the sort of player that could have a real breakout year. If anyone, he is the player I think that could very, very well have that breakout year this year and really go another level. Because last year he had to do a lot of the ruck work with Mark Pittonet being out for the majority of the year. I think that probably took a lot out of him. He's still only a young man with a young body that's not fully developed yet. But again, with another pre-season under his belt, I think he showed some really good signs on Friday at the practice match that he could be in for a big one, especially some of those aerial marks that he took were fantastic.
Yeah, I don't want to lose him, but at the end of the day, if he goes, I mean, the club has to be bigger than the individual. So,
of course.
We're not saying where he's going to go. We hope he stays. In fact, there's nothing to stop us chasing his brother. So,
well,
I don't know, but that's
true.
okay. So, if anyone out there,
of course, one other thing I should mention is Patrick Cripps just came off towards the end there with a bit of a leg injury. Look, I'm not sure it was all that serious. I wouldn't be panicking about it, but certainly was evident that he got a bit of a knock or might have stretched a muscle or two. So hopefully he can recover in time to play in round one.
I listened. They interviewed Ashley Hansen after the match. I was listening to it on SEN.
Yeah.
And Ashley Hansen said that once it became apparent that he had a sore ankle, they took him off straight away.
Yeah.
And didn't want to risk it. So Lana's saying
precautionary. I think they call that precautionary.
Lana's saying we couldn't afford both, Joe. Well, maybe we could because Mitch McGovern's on his last year. So, that's a big thing.
Well, it's funny you should mention his name, Joe, because he's the one that a lot of people are expecting a big year from.
Well, he's injured.
One because he's he'll come back from that. But one of the reasons that they expect him to have a big year is because it's the last year of his contract.
Yeah.
So he's going to want to put in a pretty big one to get another contract.
Just on injuries, I mean, we've got 13 on the injured list, and one that really not disappoints me, but I suppose that's the word, is David Cunningham. I mean, I feel sorry for the bloke, but he's always injured. I mean,
well, you know how he injured himself lately, didn't? Or last week,
tackling, isn't it?
No, but it was an accident or an incident, if you like, in the gym, in the gymnasium. So he's done his shoulder. He's popped his shoulder out, and
from
I don't know how these things happen.
From all accounts, he needs a shoulder reconstruction.
Well, all I know is this, Joe. We keep finding ways to get injured, whether it's Charlie Curnow being stupid on a basketball court or whether it's, David Cunningham mucking around with mates in the gymnasium and all of a sudden dislocating his shoulder or, you name it. We find ways to do it. But some of these guys, I think David Cunningham had better be careful because for all of his talent, undoubted talent, if he can't play and he's just not on the park year after year after year, eventually they're just going to say, well, what's the point of buying? What's the point of buying anything if you can never use it? So if
you're no good to us in the sands.
Exactly.
Okay. So I must admit, yours truly had a shoulder reconstruction. It's only took me 4 weeks. I was back in the gym pumping iron within 4 weeks. No, but it's really funny.
Can you play on a half forward flank where David Cunningham normally plays?
Oh no, I've done my hammy now. No, but it actually wasn't too bad an injury. I had to keep it still for 4 weeks. That's the problem when you do the reconstruction. You're not allowed to move it.
Yeah.
So, other than that, it wasn't too bad. So I think that's about all that happened out of the practice matches. We had a good hit out.
Well, I think the other good thing that happened at the practice match was a lot of Carlton supporters all got out and watched the game and caught up with each other. And I know Paul Sebastiani was out there doing the fan cams type interviews after the game around the ground and catching up with a lot of supporters. That would have been a lot of fun. So, I think you'll probably see some footage of that on the Jumper Punch when it comes back. I think you'll find that this Tuesday, being 2 nights from now at 8 o'clock, you'll probably see some fantastic coverage of that practice match on the show. And I believe Rocco, Paul and Mars have all gotten together over the weekend and recorded that show along with a very, very special guest. So tune in on Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock if you want to watch the live premiere.
Wouldn't be you, would it, Vince?
No, not me. Definitely not me. I'll give you a clue.
Oh, I know who it is.
This particular special guest used to play for Carlton.
I was nearly going to give it away. I was going to say something, and I thought, no, I better shut up.
No,
shut up. Won't say
just
anything.
watch it, because I reckon it'll be really worth watching this Tuesday night.
I think so too. It's not John Nichols, people. It's not John Nichols.
No.
Not that vintage.
Far more recent than that.
Yeah, and it's not Chris Judd. So it's somewhere between John Nichols and Chris Judd, isn't it?
Something like that, yes.
Sums it up? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much sums it up.
So it was. I was very interested to listen to Ashley Hansen after the game. They aren't. It was Dwayne Russell who was going, and he asked him this question. He said, "Will you watch highlights of Richmond's practice match?" To which Ashley Hansen said, "Yeah, the coaching staff will watch a replay, and then we're going to come up with some really good recommendations to nullify their players." And I'm thinking to myself, well, I hope they're really good. I hope you don't come up with some shit recommendations, because even I can do that, and I can do them for free. So, but he spoke quite well. He played at West Coast, didn't he, Ashley Hansen?
He did indeed. He played in their 2006 premiership team. He wore number 29, I think, for the West Coast Eagles. Played at centre half forward, roughly. Good
player. So we've spoken about the practice match. We've spoken about AGM. We've spoken about AFLW. Oh, well, going back to AFLW, I heard an interesting argument. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this person said his daughter is a Carlton supporter, and she loves her football. But because of what's happened over the last 4 years, where she loved that I don't know their names, the girl that had her foot up in the air, and then she left, and then
Taylor Harris,
and then she liked Maddie Pressbarkis, and she left, and her daughter was finding it hard because every time she cottoned on to someone that she liked in the blue jumper, they'd leave. So she's saying there's no loyalty now. And then I hear over the next days that the new 4 expansion clubs can go and pick who they want.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they've done a very good job introducing this. I think it's all been rushed, and it's all done by the seat of their pants. But look, I've put it out on the records. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. I don't think it's watchable. I think they've rushed it. I don't think they gave it much thought. I thought you would have been better off. And I know they had VFL competitions, but I think there's not enough talent.
The talent pool is very thin. Is that what you're trying to say?
Look,
especially to have 18 clubs. Australia.
Yeah, and then you're gonna have 30 players on each club on each list.
More than that.
Well, I'm being generous. Okay, let's say 40.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot of footballers, But and I know it's becoming ever popular, so which is good. And I think that they shouldn't play on the full field. I know the football's a little bit smaller. It's a size 5 as opposed to a full size football. But look, I don't know. I don't know the answer. If I knew the answer, I wouldn't be sitting here in Bangkok doing this podcast show to 3 dogs and a cat. But anyway.
Well, what will be interesting is once Carlton eventually announces a new senior coach and a new coaching team for this AFLW team, it'll be interesting to see what sort of spike, if any, our team has in performance, because in the last 3 years especially, it has been substandard. We've lost more games than we've won, that's for sure, and we have not made finals once. And, we're going to have to address the cultural issues that are still deep-seated and were basically the cause of a lot of those players leaving. It wasn't for money. It wasn't for all of those other things. When that many players end up leaving your club, oh, no, not all for money, Joe. No.
Well, Taylor Harris left for money.
Well, let me ask you this. For all of these so-called high-priced recruits that we lost, that should have freed up a lot of space in our salary cap. So why weren't we able to go out and attract players to our club? I'll tell you why. Because the word gets around that Carlton is not a good club to go and play at because the cultural issues are there and turn people
100%,
away. So
100% agree. 100% agree. I mean,
let's hope they have addressed it with this review. We can only hope.
So, is there anything else we need to talk about our beloved Carlton Football Club?
Oh, I don't think so. Not at this stage. I think it's the next one is the Sydney Swans practice match. I think on
is that
Friday
or Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's Friday night. I think it's around 7:30 p.m. Being played in Sydney somewhere. So no doubt our Sydney-based supporters can go out there and cheer for them. Otherwise, we won't have anyone supporting us at all. But I don't see too many Melburnians going up there just to go and cheer for them at a practice match. But hopefully our New South Wales-based supporters can go and do that.
Yeah. So we've answered Lana's question about TDK. I think we'll sign him. I don't think there will be a reason not to sign him. Yeah. I actually think that if anything, I mean, we've paid big money for Jack Martin and Zach Williams, but they're all front loaded. Excuse me. So I think maybe there may be some room in the cap. I mean, if we're looking at our list, the only person I think we may lose at the end of the year is probably Ed Curnow from retirement.
Yeah.
And we may lose like David Cunningham from injury and a Sam Filth from injury. You know, we've got to see how the year goes. I think this is do or die year for Paddy Dow and Lockie O'Brien.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of
Lockie O'Brien was given 2-year extension last year, so he knows he's got a contract, whether it's with us this year and he gets traded next year, or whether he gets 2 years at Carlton. He's going to be playing for 2 years. He knows that.
They still might cut him, but I don't know. Oh, it'd be interesting. What I'll do.
Well, if they cut him, they'll have to pay him out.
Yeah. Well, what I'll do is I'll try and get a list of contracts for the players by next week, and we can go through.
Yeah.
Hang on. Lana wants to talk about her beloved. We can talk about how good Jack Silvani's going to be this year. Sorry, I'm just a bit sick.
Yeah. No.
Sorry.
I think Jack Silvani shows a lot of promise. And he's always a bit of a barometer from an enthusiasm point of view. I'd just love to see him kick a few more goals this year, and bed down that spot as a high half forward.
I think he's a bit of a whipping boy too. Sometimes I think too many people try to compare him, and I'm not saying the supporters, but even the commentators try to compare him to his father. I think he does. He does a bloody good job. He's not a ruckman; they throw him in the ruck, right?
Yeah.
He's not a tall forward, yet he competes for the marks, and he gives as good.
You mean as in key position forward?
Yeah. He's not a centre half forward and full forward, but he presents himself well, right? And he probably marks more than he drops. And if people like Fisher and Motlop and that were smart, they'd be at his feet because they know the blokes are going to punch, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like you. I just wish he'd kick a few more goals. But,
Vince, by the way, you mentioned the name Ed Curnow before. Oh, there's Johnny Redmond. G'day, Johnny. Always nice to hear from my former vice president of the Carltonians. Ed Curnow, you mentioned before. Yeah. I thought he did a pretty good job at this practice game. I think he's come back looking like, he hasn't lost any time at all, but he basically didn't play the whole of last year.
Well, he was injured most of the year.
I think we've got to really think twice before we just discard players like Ed Curnow. I know he can also be a bit of a whipping boy for some people, and a lot of people associate him with the bad years. But he's a very experienced player, and if he can, cement a role as a sort of a tagging forward or a stopper of some description, or if he's going to be a tagger, I mean, these sorts of players are very valuable, and he's got a lot of experience behind him. So don't be totally surprised if you see Ed Curnow as part of our 23 in quite a number of weeks, and potentially right through to, if we play finals. Fingers crossed.
Look, I'm a big Ed Curnow fan. I just think one thing that he lacks is pace, and you're not going to get faster. But look, as a tagger, I think he used to do a magnificent job.
Yeah.
And you're right. Maybe they put him in as a tagging half forward or forward pocket or, nullify someone. Because the guy can run all day. He's got a huge tank.
He's got a number of scalps. He has had a number of scalps over the years where he has taken a run with role against some of the league's best on ballers, and he's often blanketed them and kept them quiet, and instead of their usual 30, 35 possessions, he keeps them to 15 or 20. So I think there's a role for him inside if we're going to get serious.
I think so too. Yes, but you don't know how the selectors and the match committee think. Yeah. Who are they going to?
It might depend on who we're playing. It might depend on who we're playing on any one.
Exactly.
Week. There might be some weeks where there's really no role for him in that respect. They might leave him outside in weeks like that. But I've got a lot of time for it. And the other thing about Ed is he's a really good club man. He is a very very popular figure around the club, and it's vitally important for team morale and just generally around the club, around the change rooms and the gymnasium and out on the ground, to have a guy like him. He's got a great sense of humour and, he's a very popular figure.
Good evening, Johnny Yelder. He thinks we're going to rock and roll. I think that means he thinks we're going to be successful. I hope so, Johnny. It's been coming for ages. If they can smell what we're cooking and all that sort of garbage.
They know we're coming.
Yeah, they know we're coming. To be honest, though, I mean, this looks like it should be our window. Whether we win grand finals or not, I don't know. But I mean,
have you looked at the list profile, Joe? Have you looked at the age bracket of most of our better players and how much experience they've got in terms of number of games played under their belt? I reckon we are right in that window now. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
It was almost crazy that we didn't make finals last year. So we could very much have one of those. What do they call them?
Breakout years.
Well, yeah, where you just have this big jump because it's almost like an elastic effect where you just get a real springboard into the season and especially if we're fueled by the pain, if you like, of how we finished off last year. Hopefully that gives the players some real motivation to put their best foot forward this year. I see no reason why we cannot play finals, and I see no reason why we can't even finish. Whoa, what happened there?
Oh, Vince has dropped the phone.
Whoa, sorry about that. That just fell on its own. I can assure you there was no earthquake here.
We're not doing the show from Turkey, are we, Vince?
No, we're not. So I see no reason why we can't finish top four with a little bit of luck. And I can tell you internally at the club that that's what they secretly, they won't say it publicly, but that's what they secretly harbour ambitions to do, is to finish top four.
Look, and I don't have a problem. People say, "Oh, we want to hear Michael Voss saying we're going to finish top four." I don't want to hear that. No. I want to hear him say the group is united and they know their plans and they know what they've got to do. And in turn, I don't want Luke Sayers coming out saying we should be playing finals. And I don't care about you, Luke. I care about the players, right? The players are the ones that invest in. Yes, Luke's got to probably buy into what they're doing and give them the support, but it's the players. That they do. What's this, Gina? They don't seriously sell those chips. Yeah, they do, Gina. They do. I put a post up the other day. I'm not going to show you, but they do.
What's
those
that?
Chips well, there's some crisps, chips, whatever you want to call them, on sale in Germany, and they're vagina flavored and penis flavored. I've asked my friend to send me some. So I'm intrigued.
Oh,
But
dear
anyway,
me.
I
Dear
don't know.
me.
What's the world
Dear
coming
me.
to? Anyway, yeah, Gina, it's right. There's no excuses. I mean, if the players sit there and go, we're going to finish top 10, well, then Michael Voss should say to them, well, you guys need to take a serious look at yourself. But, if I listen to the guys that, have you watched that documentary about the Bulldogs when they won the flag? They sat down at the beginning of the year and they all knew what they had to do. They knew what they wanted to do. Yeah, they finished 7th. And they thought, well, we're not out of it. We're still in the finals, right?
Yep.
So,
yep. And they made every post a winner. And they were one of the few teams that's come from that position to win all 4 finals, including the grand final, and take out the premiership. It just goes to show you that as unlikely as it is actually possible to win a premiership from somewhere between 5th and 8th.
You just got to believe
it. We all recognise. Look, we all recognise that your best chance is finishing top 4, but that doesn't make it an impossibility to win it from 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th. No,
you got to believe, Vince. If you don't believe,
if you're in it, you got a chance to win.
If you don't believe in the game plan, if you don't believe in the coach, if you don't believe in your teammates, you're never going to have a chance, right?
No, that's true.
Which brings me on to the Australian cricket team. What the hell are they believing in?
Okay, we're going to go away from football and on to cricket now.
I don't think there's much more we need to talk. We'll just quickly talk about other sports. I mean, we've been going for 45 minutes.
I mean, the Australian cricket team at the moment, if you ask me, is an absolute rabble. They've been exposed for what they really are. I think that the recent series victories against the West Indies in 2 tests here at home, and the South Africans in 3 tests here at home have camouflaged a lot of the weaknesses that we have. And that trip to India has already exposed a number of gaping holes in this side, I should say, in this team. And I think the biggest deficiency up until now has been leadership. You can poke at certain players, if you like, or pinpoint certain players and say, what about him? He's been no good, and that one's been no good. Sure, you can pick on a lot of players, but it all starts at the top whenever you have problems, and you've got to look from there down. And I think that the selectors, the coaches, and the captain have all got to be put under an enormous amount of scrutiny before we go to England. And I think there's a big case to be made for all 3 positions, be it George Bailey as a selector, Andrew McDonald, I should say, or what a friend of mine calls him, Ronald McDonald, with his red hair. The coach of the team who took over from Justin Langer, who was unceremoniously sacked because the players whinged about him. And, of course, the biggest whinger of all, Patrick Cummins, or Cummins, I should say, who doesn't know whether he's coming or going. And he's back here at the moment, so he won't be captain. He won't be. I believe so. Yeah. But now, of course, we've decided to give the captaincy back to Steve Smith, who should probably never have been stripped of the captaincy in the first place, in my view. And it'll be interesting to see whether that gives the team a bit of a jolt of enthusiasm for the remaining 2 tests. But look, they've already flown up a number of players and they've flown back a number of players. There are some players that have been flown up to India and flown back to Australia without even having played. Yeah, Ashton Agar is one of those. I mean, what a joke it's all become. It has become an absolute farce.
Building up frequent flyer points, Vince.
Oh, the Indian tour has been nothing short of an unmitigated disaster. And these people who are both captain, coach and selector, in my view, they should fall on their swords and resign, the whole 3 of them.
Yeah, but they don't.
That's what I would do.
Well, we'll know more next Sunday. I think the first test starts on Wednesday, 1st of March. So we'll know a bit more. Vince, anything in other sport? I know
Yep.
You're a big soccer fan, so we told you the score before. Melbourne Victory won.
Oh, that's the local A-League competition here in Australia.
Yeah.
I haven't got the results with me right now, Joe. I'm sorry, I haven't got that.
I got them in front of me. Melbourne Victory won, Adelaide United won, and last night, any shock results? Not really. Your beloved Everton lost as usual.
No, hang on. Are you still on A-League? What are the other A-League results? Oh, you're just going to talk about Melbourne Victory and that's it, is it?
Yeah, that's the only one I like.
So we're aligning ourselves with the Melbourne Victory Football Club just because we're Carlton supporters. Is that what we're saying?
There's no other scores here. So
there's another Melbourne team called Melbourne City.
Yeah,
and there's another one called Western United.
Yeah, but there's no scores on my thing, so I don't know what's happened.
Right,
so
okay,
right.
Well, we won't talk A-League then, will we? All right, let's go to English Premier League. My team, Everton, had a 2-0 loss to Aston Villa at home. That was another terrible result. So we're back into the relegation spots. I think we're back in 18th position and looking pretty sick at the moment, I've got to say. Arsenal keep going from strength to strength. They had a 1-0 win away at Leicester, I believe. So they retain their 2-point lead ahead of Manchester City, who had a 4-1 victory over Bournemouth away at Bournemouth. So Arsenal still 2 points ahead of Manchester City, but with a game in hand as well. So once they get that game in hand, if they happen to get another win, they could potentially go up to 5 points ahead of them. But there's still a long way to go. There's still quite a number of matches to come. So I know some Arsenal supporters, such as the Sebastiani brothers, are very gung-ho about Arsenal, and for their sakes, I hope they do win the English Premier League this year. But there's still a long way to go, boys.
Vince, I got the other results. Melbourne City,
yes,
won 3-2 over Sydney, so I think that keeps them on top. Yep. And Western United 3 beat Newcastle Jets 1. Western Sydney 4 beat Macarthur. Is that an Australian, a Victorian?
Yes. That's a Sydney-based team. Yep.
Central Coast Mariners 1, Wellington 1.
Yep.
And in the other game, Brisbane Roar 2, Perth Glory 1. But as Gina and Lana have rightly pointed out, we only care about Melbourne Victory because they're blue, right? I follow
So is
Chelsea,
Melbourne
the
City.
Blues. No, they're not. They're red and white.
Who? Melbourne City?
Yeah.
No,
they used to be
not.
Melbourne Heart. They're red and white, Vince.
No, they're not.
Don't start me.
There's no way that they're red.
They are red.
If anything, they might have I think they've got the light blue colours like Manchester City because they're owned by the same people. They're owned by the same people from Abu Dhabi. Etihad.
Now, while I'm on that, I'm just trying to find Melbourne City shirt.
Here we go. We're going to have an argument about what their colours are.
They have gone to the blue and white. I'm sorry.
Oh,
they used to be red and white. Well, I don't live in Australia. I only watch Melbourne Victory.
All right, fair enough.
Now, for our friend Gina,
yes,
Melbourne Storm starts in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Gina,
I think they're going to be in for another good year, and they'll probably make the finals again because they always do under Craig Bellamy. Is the best National Rugby League coach in the history of the game, if you ask me.
Do you think maybe we should get him at Carlton because hasn't Slugwood?
I'll tell you what, if Michael Voss doesn't work out, that would be an appointment out of the box, wouldn't it? To get a coach like Craig Bellamy to come across the AFL. I don't think it'll happen, but anyway.
But isn't Slugwood coaching over there?
Joel Selwood.
Slugwood, I call him. He's a sniper.
No, well, we should congratulate Joel and his lovely wife. They've just had a baby, as a matter of fact.
Okay, congratulations. I'm sure he watches the show.
I'm sure he does too. Yeah, I reckon he would too. So
Gina and Lana are very bullish on the Melbourne Storm. I am too. I think they're in for a powerful year. May as well give us the trophy now.
Yeah,
don't play the season. Just give us the trophy. Vince, we're running out of time. So quickly, anything on golf racing that you want to mention?
No, look, not really. In the golf, there's the Honda Classic taking place at the moment at that beautiful course called PGA National down there at Palm Beach in Florida. Beautiful, beautiful course.
Isn't it funny that these guys get paid playing a pastime? Golf's not a sport, it's a pastime.
But no. It's a sport where you get paid because obviously there's a demand for the sport and a demand to watch it, and they sell all sorts of things as a result of it. So therefore it commands pretty decent salaries, doesn't it? Or prize money, at least.
Yeah, it's a joke.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
The Live Golf Tour, which was that breakaway tour from last year, is also cranking up this weekend. So that's about to come to its conclusion over there at Mayacoba in Mexico. I love watching the Live Golf Tour. It's really exciting golf to watch because it's not just about individuals who happen to compete with each other. It's also a team-based thing. So, for example, Australian champion Cameron Smith, who won the Open Championship last year, the 150th British Open at St Andrews, he's the captain of a team of golfers, and they all happen to be Australians. Matt Jones and Wade Ormsby and Mark Leishman, and so their team will go up against other teams that'll include players like Dustin Johnson and Phil Mickelson and Sergio Garcia, all of these famous golfers who have joined the Live Golf Tour. And look, the beauty of it is that they're going all around the world with this Live Golf Tour, including Australia. And in April, we will see a tournament here in Adelaide. And it's the weekend. It's the weekend after we play Adelaide in Adelaide for that gather round that the AFL have decided to hold this year in round 5. So the week after that will be the Live Golf Tour.
We've already had a Live Golf Tour here. We beat you to it.
No, we haven't.
No, Bangkok. We've had one.
Oh, you mean Bangkok has? No, but not this year. You had one last year.
Yeah, we still beat you. Okay, last comment here. Gina, the Corowa Cup is oh, let's see how much money I can make for the TAB. I think you'll make lashings.
Can I just give Paul Sebastiani a big shout out because he tipped the winner of the Launceston Cup during the week, Aurora's Symphony, which won the race last year and has come back and won it for the second consecutive year. It's gone back to back. I think it had paid something like $6.50 or something along those lines. It was actually trained by the trainer of his horse. And his own horse had a win about a week and a half ago at Bendigo. His horse, Darcy's Debut. So keep an eye out for Darcy's Debut as a thoroughbred around the Victorian tracks. And, yes, he happened to tip the winner of the Launceston Cup, which was trained by the same guy, Simon Wild, same trainer as Paul's horse.
That brings us to our newly created segment, which the first week you failed miserably, but that was my fault. Last week you gave us Luke's
mistake. I said it was an omen bet because of Luke Sayers, our president, holding the AGM.
And it really was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
As Gina will tell you, it finished third in an 8-horse race, and there was no third dividend.
And it was $1.45 odds on pop. So certainly no value there, and no luck either.
Vince, omen bet this week.
Omen bet this week. Now it's at Mildura, and it's a bet that. In fact, I'm sorry, Joe. I've forgotten to I've forgotten to take my iPad here with me so I can have a look at the fields. But so I can't exactly tell you the race. I think it's race 9. I think it's on Wednesday night. I could be wrong.
It might be trotting.
It's trotting. It's harness racing. It'll either be Tuesday or Wednesday night. And it's in a small field. I think it's race 9. And I'm going to choose this for very sad reasons, as a matter of fact, because recently we lost one of our past players and a guy who I got to know a little bit around the club, especially with his work with the past players group. and the spirit of Carlton. And we lost him earlier this month, and his name was Dennis Munari. He wore number 8 for Carlton, played probably about 38 or 39 games, I think, for the club.
Did he pass away?
Yeah, he had a heart attack early February, and they had the funeral for him about a week and a half ago.
Dennis?
Yeah, lovely guy. Yeah. And because of that, there's a horse called Dennis. In fact, in that race, I think it's number 4, I think, from memory.
Hang on, it's Wednesday night.
Okay, there you go. Is it race 9?
Race 9, number 4.
There you go. I thought it was that. So race 9, number 4, Dennis. It's won its last 2. Let's see if it can make it a hat trick. It's up against a couple of smart ones in numbers 5 and 6, but I think it'll be right in the race. Small field. So let's hope that Dennis can get up and make it a hat trick for Dennis Munari.
Yeah, geez, I'll have to. I used to have coffee with Dennis when I lived in Australia. I used to have coffee with him.
It was only age 73, so probably gone a little bit too soon, if you ask me. Yeah,
he's a financial planner too. How when did he pass away, Vince?
I think you'll find it was early February. It might have been.
No.
Might have been the 2nd or 3rd or something like that.
Oh, I'll have to check with a friend. Okay, so we've put the omen bed up there. So condolences to Dennis and his friends and family. Lovely bloke.
He is.
Loved Carlton.
Yep. Here's to Dennis. Go Blues.
Here's to Dennis. So Vince, that brings us to the end of the show.
It does.
Just a couple of things we need to point out. First, hit the like, share button. Tell the people all about the show. We're trying to get 1,000 members on our channel. So we're about 930, 940. So share the love. Excuse me. We have, don't forget, you pointed out the Jumper Punch boys. So keep an eye out on their Facebook page, and they've got their own YouTube channel. So keep an eye out for them. So, and are you on the radio tonight or tomorrow with Paul?
Yes. I have a regular segment with Paul Sebastiani on his radio show on SEN 11:16 on the 11:16 on the AM dial. I'm on with him every Friday night. Saturday and Sunday nights can be a bit hit and miss depending on whether they're covering EPL soccer or not. But certainly Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday nights usually. And Monday or Tuesday. So look, right through the weekend period, if you like, and either side of the weekend.
Maybe you can put it up on our Facebook page.
Most of his, I think the dates that he doesn't normally do it, unless he's covering for somebody, would be the Wednesday and Thursday nights. But certainly Friday through till Tuesday, you'll see Paul on the overnight crowd between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. And he normally likes to get me on around midnight. So, and I give him some harness racing tips, and we talk golf, sometimes a little bit of cricket, and no doubt in the next few weeks, once the season starts, we'll be talking a little bit of AFL as well.
All right. So don't forget, keep that. Guys, don't forget, there's also a lot of other channels out there. The biggest one that I probably know of is Blue Abroad. And then there's Heath Buck. He's got
My Blue Heaven.
Yeah, My Blue Heaven. And then there's Almost Blues Brothers. So, look, we support all the pages. And
you know what, Joe? There's another one, which is a very similar name to our own. Ours is called In the Blue Corner. It's called the Navy Blue Corner. So there is a difference there. Yeah, in fact, I think they just recently had their 100th episode. But I think what we should also mention to our viewers out there is that we're going to have some news for them next week. I was
just about to say that. There's going to be some very, very, very big news. We can't let the cat out of the bag yet, but
all will be revealed next Sunday night.
Yeah, but to say that Vince and I are mildly excited is an understatement. So, so keep your eye out on that. So
I'm also going to the Carlton Life Members Luncheon next Sunday afternoon as a life member of the club. So I'll be able to catch up with a lot of the past players and coaches and other people that have made a significant contribution to the club over the years.
All right. Well, on that note, it's goodbye from me here in Bangkok.
And it's good night from him over there in Bangkok. But it's also a good night from me. Good night, everyone.
And here we go. What's happened here? As we go out to the song.
Are you going to sing it out loud, Joe?
Let's just hope, Vince,
Blues.
that they're playing that song in September.
Yes, let's hope so. It'd be nice to hear it at the end of the football game a lot more than at the start of the football game from now on.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.